Let's start with a question that's key for today's session. What is the difference between a bid and proposal manager and being a function manager? Now, when I talk about a function manager, I mean the individual who is responsible and accountable for the team of bid and proposal professionals and the specific processes, tools and templates, rather than the management of individual proposals. Now, why should we think about this? Well, it could be a natural career step for some people, and a topic that, in my view, doesn't get enough attention. Now, what experience and authority do I have to talk on this subject? Well, I've been in the bid and proposal management profession pretty much throughout the whole of my career, with nearly 15 years experience in managing the submission of winning bids and leading the delivery of projects and programs to achieve customer and business objectives. 7 years ago, I decided to specialise in the bid and proposal profession. I started my journey to becoming a function manager in 2015 when I moved to my current employer, TP Group, where I was given the opportunity to develop a bid process from scratch for a group of diverse and geographically dispersed business units. For my first 3 years here, I straddled both the bid proposal management role and also a function management role. Now, within the last 12 months, I've become the dedicated bid and proposal function manager. So today, I'm going to share my experiences of the two roles and give some insights from my experiences on what a bid manager might experience and expect when moving to become that function manager. And whilst my session is based on moving from that bid and proposal manager to the function manager, because that's been my journey, I believe that some of the elements I will cover today will be just as relevant to other roles in the bid and proposal profession wanting to move to that function manager. Now, the key topics that we'll cover today will be leadership, roles and responsibilities, and also qualities and characteristics. And becoming responsible and accountable for the bid and proposal function, you will become a leader. That's not to say you will no longer manage. There are elements of that function manager role that still are management based. However, to perform the function manager role effectively, you'll have to use more of your leadership skills. So who is a leader and who's a manager? There are recognised differences between the two. Leadership is the action of leading a group towards a common goal. You lead people. Leaders inspire, they motivate, and they encourage. Management is the process of dealing with or controlling things or people. Managers plan, they organise, and they coordinate. Fundamentally, leaders inspire people to want to do something. Managers hold people accountable for doing something. Now, I would argue that the best bid and proposal managers possess both manager and leadership qualities. However, a bid and proposal manager will have more of a weighting on that management quality, whereas a function owner will have more of a weighting on the leadership qualities. Becoming a function manager means that your day-to-day roles, responsibilities and ultimate accountabilities change. In summary, these include strategy and vision, process ownership, learning from experience, resource management, thought leadership, wider stakeholder engagement, and C-suite engagement. I will focus more on some of these than others, but today I'll go through each of these with my own respective experiences. Strategy and vision for the function needs to be defined, then updated regularly, in my view, on an annual basis. What is a strategy and vision? Well, quite simply, it's your plan for the function going forward. It should complement the overall business strategy. The strategic plan could be part of or support a specific business investment case for the function. It should cover your vision at short, medium and long term, and definitely be focused on strategy rather than technical delivery. So, for example, not looking at who is going to be the bid and proposal manager on a specific opportunity, but the types of skills and experiences that are going to be required for the different types of opportunities the business and the company will be pursuing. The bid strategy can cover multiple elements. These can include resourcing. This can include the structure, the size in terms of the numbers of heads and the skills and the capabilities required of the function. Part of this could be an investment case for recruiting new employees and timescales for doing so, and what the forecast benefits and return on investment to the company are expected to be. Tools. Now, these can be both internally developed and any specific tools and procurement of those that will support the delivery of the function. They should ultimately be forecasted a business benefit linked to the efficiencies in the performance of your team. My examples have included the development of a bid plan workbook in Microsoft Excel that supports the capture and analysis of intelligence for the opportunity such as customer issues, objectives and hot buttons, competition analysis, our solution, and proposal planning and development. Another example I have in my strategy is the use of Microsoft Teams and how that, as an existing business tool, can be used specifically by our function. The creation of terms of reference, a blueprint for efficient use of the tool's features for the benefit of all. For instance, developing proposals in Teams so that you can have multiple authors writing concurrently in Microsoft Word reduces the need for multiple copies of the document and the proposal manager having to bring them together in one master copy at various times throughout the writing process or at submission. Training, qualifications and memberships are really important. As well as identifying what resource you need, the strategy should also define a career path and the requisite training, qualifications and memberships that accompany that. Now, as bid and proposal professionals, we have a lot of this ready at our fingertips by using the APMP to its maximum benefit, all three of these. How many of us have heard the words, "I'm sorry, you can't attend that event or conference or go on that training because we do not have the budget"? Well, through your strategy, you can define how much training you want for each role across the year. You can define that they all go to your chapters and your conference. You can identify the certification and other training requirements. You can also include APMP membership fees for your team. If large enough, you could also have APMP corporate membership as part of your strategy. By highlighting the benefits expected from these to the business and how it will positively impact the overall business strategy and combining that with a budget, once this gets signed off by the appropriate authorizers in your business, you now have the ammunition to say they are going to that conference, event, training, because it is in the approved strategy and budget. Process ownership is a key aspect of the function manager. No longer do you follow your business's bid and proposal development process, you own it. Being a subject matter expert in delivering the process means that you will be someone who knows from experience the pain of a poorly functioning bid process. Any process must be reviewed regularly to ensure that it's still appropriate for the business operations. To function well, the process shouldn't just reflect the company as it is, but look to the future. When I first joined TP Group, they had very little, if anything, in terms of a fully defined bid process. Having experienced good and bad practice from my previous roles, I was able to create a process that not only reflected the needs of the company then, but is still appropriate for the company today, notwithstanding of the fact that it is in excess of 3 times the size, both in terms of employees and annual revenues. So part of the process ownership is ensuring that it is fit for purpose, but is also ensuring that it is flexible and tailorable according to the opportunity, complexity, size and strategic importance. To do this, I've split the process into 2. Capture, which is everything pre-ITT, RFP receipt, and proposal, which is the actual development of a proposal document. Capture has more flexibility than proposal. Not all capture activities should be done to the same degree on all opportunities. Some will involve very early activities, and capture could last months or even years. Some will be later on in the process and merely be the pre-qualification activities, such as expression of interests or pre-qualifying questionnaires, or even rough order of magnitude submissions. Despite this, there are still decision and approval points to ensure an identified opportunity relates to a business strategy. The proposal process is a little bit more restrictive because every opportunity in our company goes through this process, but even so, it is still designed for flexibility in mind. For example, storyboarding. Whilst it is best practice to do this activity, I am realistic enough to know it is not always necessary or appropriate. And no, that's not dependent on the amount of time available to respond to the ITT or RFP. But in the proposal process, we have 5 mandatory tasks. Your bid, no bid decision gate, your technical review, your financial review, your commercial review, and your bid submission decision gate. But there again, each of these are also flexible depending on the complexity and size of the bid. For example, you're not going to apply the same level of scrutiny to a £50,000 standard contract or service offering as you would a multi-million-pound complex opportunity. As the process owner, it is your responsibility that all of this is taken into account in your process. The next big element of being a process owner is the accountability. And by that, I mean ensuring that it's actually being followed. It's not just about internal auditing of your bid and proposal professional managers. If you have employed the right people in these positions, ensuring they follow the process should be fairly straightforward, because they should understand the reasons and benefits behind the process. The element of auditing is much more time consuming and must not be underestimated when you are ensuring that non-bid and proposal professionals are following the process. I'm afraid to say that no matter how clear your process is, how much awareness and training you deliver to non-bid and proposal professionals, there are still some people out there that think that what we're talking about is rocket science and end up not following the process either through misunderstanding or choice. If you are in a company with multiple legal entities, that means that they probably have different quality management systems. So you may face the circumstance where a business unit goes off and develops their own process because they think they know better. In this instance, it is important for you to reaffirm your position and process ownership and remind people that you are a qualified bid and proposal professional, either through experience or industry body certification. A part of process ownership includes learning from experience. From talking to our peers, I have the view that learning from experience is not always given the recognition for its importance that it deserves. If we think honestly, how many of us can say that we have a learning from experience as part of our process? And even if we do we actually do it? Yet it is arguably one of the most important elements of the process, because how do you know that the process is right and the activities in the process are appropriate unless you do a thorough feedback and analysis session? I know from experience that bid and proposal professionals rarely get the break after submission that we need and we deserve. It's submit and then straight on to the next one. Now, John Darby, previous APMP UK chair, recently delivered a webinar entitled That's Life, Learn Intelligently from Experience, which identified some key best practices that are appropriate to mention here. Most notably, that the manager of the bid and proposal function should really own that learning from experience. That is something that I certainly do. As someone independent from the opportunity, I can chair these sessions, teasing out from all members of the bid team what they thought well and what they didn't think went quite so well. It's not a witch hunt or a reason to point blame, but it should be open and honest. The result is a report with some recommendations for improvement, whether that's linked to a process, a tool, a template, or anything else that's relevant. I then collate all learning from experience reports and identify trends and analyse which improvement recommendations I believe warrant further investigation. By me, as the function manager, owning this, I can be more independent when asking questions about how things went. I know again from personal experience, if a bid went well, then a learning from experience session can just be a backslapping event, regardless of whether we know the result or not. In these circumstances, not having someone independent running the session will mean everyone self-congratulating each other and forgetting any imperfections that could be important to discuss, no matter how minor they seem. Similarly, if a bid did not go quite so well, we get so hung up on what didn't work well that we forget to investigate the root cause of why this was the case. We also forget to highlight elements that have gone well. John's session was a great session on this topic. So if you can, see if you can get a recording of this webinar to gain further insights. As the function manager, resource management and leadership become different from when you manage and lead a bid team pursuing a specific opportunity. Resource management as the function owner is not just placing the bid and proposal professionals in your team on specific opportunities. Remember what we said earlier about management and leadership and the differences between the two, because that is a very pertinent point. As a bid and proposal manager, you are controlling the development of a proposal, controlling people's input. Now, as the function manager, you become responsible and accountable for the leadership of a group of professionals, each with their own subtle differences in terms of strengths and weaknesses, each with their own different personalities, each with their own boundaries between career and professional life, and each with their own development needs and desires. Now, as the function manager, you must lead them towards a common goal, improving your company's conversion rate to win more contracts as part of either a consolidation or a business growth strategy. And as part of this, you will always need to be there for your team and show them empathy. For me, I have given my team members access to my personal mobile number, and I have told them that they can phone me any time, day or night, weekend, weekday, or even if I'm on leave. But why have I done this? Because it demonstrates that they are important to me, and that if they have an issue or a problem, I want, not need, to know about it to try and help them. And that's not because I am focused on a business need, but more on the personal element. Does it mean that I'm inundated with calls all the time? Absolutely not. I think I can count on one hand the instances they've called me outside of the working day in a year. But the very fact that they know that they can call me provides a subliminal element of support to them, that they are never alone. As mentioned, the element of empathy in leadership is, in my view, critical and something imperative in the role of the function manager. My understanding of how important this is has developed a lot since October last year. At the APMP UK's conference, one of our keynote speakers was Belinda Palmer, a global expert on corporate empathy. Then, and in a subsequent empathy workshop delivered by Belinda that I attended, it highlighted to me that as leaders, we need to focus on empathy in action, not sympathy. It's not about feeling that things are being done to you. It's about training and empowering your teams to deliver the change that they want to see. It's about changing cultures, one nudge at a time. As part of my empathy in action development, I thought back to another point in my life to find a clear example of where empathy in my leadership had a significant impact to my team. Now, this went back a few years to the days when I was an officer in training in the Royal Navy Reserves. Before starting my officer in training, I'd been a junior rating, and one of my duties was being part of the ship's guards for formal occasions, including remembrance parades. When a junior rate is part of the guard, they carry an SA-80 assault rifle. Now, it only weighs about 4 kilograms. It's about 8.5 pounds. Where I live in Bristol, we have one of the largest remembrance parades in the UK outside of London, with thousands of eyes looking on us. As part of the parade, it ends with a march past that then goes up a hill. By that point, you've been holding your rifle in your right arm for about an hour and a half, so it feels much heavier than it actually is. Dropping your weapon would cause an incident on more than one level, not just in embarrassment, but also because you've got a bayonet attached to it. So when I moved to be an officer in training, one of my duties became being a guard officer. One of the officers at the front or rear of the parade leading the squad with a sword in hand, which is much lighter than an SA-80, I can tell you. Now here comes the pertinent point about empathy. When we were practicing ahead of the November Remembrance Parade, I made a specific decision to get our senior rates to train the junior rates in changing arms, the process of moving the weapon from one arm to the other. It doesn't sound that difficult, but when you want all 24 members of your guard to do it simultaneously in time whilst marching, there's an element of complexity in it. For a while, the guard members couldn't see the reason for doing this. It was a change to their routine. They had never normally done this before. However, when it came to the day of the parade, this demonstration of empathy from me as their leader came into play. When we were on our march past, I was able to call out the orders to change arms on the march at times, which meant that the guard had a chance to get some blood back into their arms. The result? An excellent guard that worked well as a team, reaching that common goal in demonstrating our respect to those who had fallen in conflict in the best way we can. A professional guard made up of reserve Navy personnel that was as good a guard as any of their full-time peers. I digress. But having that empathy for your team is key. As a bid and proposal function manager, you will be able to use empathy to its fullest extent and become a leader. And I must stress that resource management is a significant role of the function manager. I would say that I dedicate about half my time to it every week, and it is not something that you can just schedule in your diary. To do it well, it's more than just weekly catch-ups and monthly one-to-ones. It's about getting to know the individuals, knowing what they are good at, and helping them to identify, not telling them, the areas they can improve in. Knowing which opportunities they would be best placed on, either because of their skills, knowledge and experience, or because of the team they will be working with, is absolutely critical. All of these things need to be thought of for the benefit of the individual, team and company. Now, thought leadership is part of buzzword bingo at the moment and used all over the place. But if we look at what it actually is, you'll see why I say it and expertise go hand in hand and are important as elements of that function manager. Thought leadership is when a notable expert in a specific company, industry or society offers guidance and insight to those around them. They have a positive reputation of helping others with their knowledge and insight. As the function manager, you become the thought leader for the bid and proposal professionals in your company and wider. As a thought leader, you don't tell people how to do things. It's not about training. Training is something completely different. It's also not about developing new tools and templates. It is exactly as it says, offering the guidance and insight to your team. Every bid and proposal professional is different from their peers, regardless of what the specialism is, whether they be a writer, a manager, a graphics expert, etc., etc. By being a thought leader, you can recognise this. So your guidance and insights leads their individual thoughts to develop themselves the best way they can. Now, why do it like this? Well, it's all about retaining and encouraging that creativity we have in each other. The two bid managers I have in my team are completely different from each other. Whilst they follow the same process, the way in which they do it from one another, and also me, is different. Does that make any one of us better than the other? No. Ultimately, we all work with a range of subject matter experts to form a solution that the company supports and we believe has a win probability high enough to make an impact on the customer, hopefully resulting in a contract. But do I want them to be repeats of me in how they do this? No, of course not. But what thought leadership is able to bring to them is specific areas from our industry that I see as important to our company and ultimately the customer. An example. I am an absolute pedant when it comes to the presentation of our proposals. Whilst I know the content in terms of the words is important, for me, if it doesn't look good, it will not inspire those who are evaluating it and making that ultimate decision of awarding a contract. Now, I know this from my time working on behalf of the BBC, delivering a major public engagement programme for them. And as part of this role, I was receiving proposals and making a decision of awarding contracts, which was then reported to the BBC Trust and government. When evaluating the proposals, I always felt that if the proposal wasn't of the right quality, then how could I be sure that the project delivery would be as I expected? Plus, when evaluating multiple submissions, you want something that grabs your attention. So there is critical importance in the formatting, the consistency with our brand, the reflection of the customer's value and brand, the use of graphics, the structure, the use of headings to break text up, the call-out boxes. I could go on. All of these are regardless of the content. But I want customers to pick up a TP Group proposal and without reading a word, see that we are a professional company that delivers high quality outputs that can be relied upon. Now, it's difficult to train this because so much revolves around individuals' creativity. So this is where thought leadership comes in. I highlight why these elements are important from my experience, show how I address them in a proposal and the tools I use to do so. And when I say tools, I also include here places to go to help convert that creativity into something that can be put onto a page, and this includes the use of YouTube. If you don't know how to do something, look it up on YouTube. Go and find out yourself, sort of thing. That's really important. Pretty much everything that I've done has all been self-taught, and that's helped with that creativity. However, it is important to recognise that thought leadership doesn't have to be all about the function manager. As the function manager, it's important to recognise that whilst we are the experts in our field, we are not experts in absolutely every sub-element in our profession. Thought leadership is also about recognising others' strengths and getting them to share these. From a function manager perspective, we should be driving thought leadership, not always the ones delivering it. Now, up until now, I've mostly been functioning on the elements that relate to our profession and the team of professionals that we manage and lead. But as a function manager, you have an accountability and responsibility for wider stakeholder engagement within the company. This wider stakeholder engagement is also critical with regards to getting buy-in to the bid and proposal strategy I mentioned earlier. In my view, it is important as part of highlighting that the bid and proposal function is a function worthy of being standalone. Whilst it is complementary to others, including sales and business development, commercial and marketing, it should be recognised as being separate and independent from them. It should be driving its own strategy, not being a subheading of someone else's. As bid and proposal professionals, we have extensive experience of working with other functions. If anything, we are most probably the ones in the business that have the most experience of working with wider stakeholders whilst pursuing an opportunity. Technical, commercial, finance, quality, sales and BD, marketing, IT, security, to name but a few. However, as the function manager, the wider stakeholder engagement is a more strategic level rather than tactical. It can be focused more on how each of these functions are part of the bid and proposal process and working with those functions beyond an individual opportunity level. For example, I work very closely with our marketing department. Why? Well, when it comes to external marketing, there is some intelligence and knowledge that we bid and proposal professionals can bring to help. Now, let's be honest, in our profession, what we produce is the ultimate piece of marketing of our solutions and products to a customer that we hope to generate a contract. So with this in mind, we are able to provide information about customers and competition that might be useful when a general piece of marketing is being put together. Also, who knows where all the case studies are that we might want to put on our website? Well, we do, because we use them and redevelop them on a frequent basis. By working with our marketing team, I'm able to discuss the wider company strategy with them and ensure that this is then reflected in our proposals. The importance of this is consistency. Consistency in message, brand, knowledge of customer, etc. It means that something we put on our website or into our marketing material for an event is consistent with what we have in our proposals. This demonstrates to customers and competition that we are a company with a clear strategy and vision. It also highlights to customers that they are a crucial part of that strategy and vision. With our wider stakeholder engagement, we can also work with the sales and business development teams to express the importance of our function being brought into opportunities a lot earlier than we are in most cases. With the new Capture Practitioner certification, we can highlight our experience and industry recognised capabilities in supporting the teams prior to an ITT or an RFP receipt, and ultimately working together to increase the win probability. Now, further to the various other business functions, the function manager engages with the C-suite, the executive level management of the company. That's your CEO, CFO, COO, etc. It could be that you report into one of these. For me, I report into our CFO. Getting buy-in from the C-suite for your strategy is critical. It sends a clear message across the business that the way in which you are going to lead and deliver the business's bid and proposal function is fully supported by those in the company who make the decisions. As the bid and proposal function manager, it is likely that you will also become responsible for providing input into regular board reports. For me, this includes reporting on things like the number and total value of bids submitted in the previous month, or the number and value of total of bids that's going to be submitted in the coming month, details of the win rates in the previous 6 months, updates on significant opportunities that we're pursuing, an update on continuous improvement activities that we're being implementing. For me, the C-suite engagement also includes being part of the bid approvals matrix, where I become involved in the review of any opportunities that are flagged as strategic or of a certain value. As part of this, where required, I also take an opportunity requiring CEO approval directly to him. Part of my initial engagement meant working with him to identify the key information that he wants to know about the opportunity so I can cover those elements within a 2-page summary. I work with the relevant teams to pull this together, and then I meet with the CEO to get his approval. This ensures that there is a consistency in the information presented and also a consistency in responsibility for achieving the approval. Now, to finish, I'd like to share briefly my thoughts on the characteristics and qualities that a function manager should have, namely focus, courage, judgment, sense of priority, delegation, and a sense of humour. Now, all of these are inextricably linked. But let's briefly look at each of these and why they are important. The focus should be driven by that strategy that has been identified. Where is the function now, and where does it need to be in 12, 18, 24 months' time, and what focus needs to be applied to achieve this? There are a lot of decisions that you will be responsible for and have ultimate accountability for. So you need to have the courage to make those decisions and then stand by them. But you also need to have the courage at times to put your hand up and say, sorry, I got that one wrong. Judgment comes into everything and will help inform the decisions you need to make. The sense of priority is pertinent when juggling everything that is coming your way. For instance, if you get your strategy right and your implementation of it is effective, your function and the people within it become popular, and you'll receive more and more requests for use of their resource. With this, you then have to prioritise what you can and cannot resource. Using your judgment and courage, you can prioritise appropriately so you can focus on the tasks that really need the support of the bid and proposal function and which can be delivered by others. Delegation is critical to being a function manager. You cannot do everything and you cannot be everywhere at the same time, and that is why you either have a team or have a team as part of your strategy. Whilst there may be some interesting individual tenders that your company is looking to pursue, you are no longer the one to manage these. Have faith in your team and lead them well so they can manage them effectively. And above all, this all must be done with a sense of humour. It breaks down barriers and builds relationships. So, today I've taken you through my thoughts and experiences on the things to think about when moving from a bid and proposal manager role to a function manager role. Others will have their views. So my final piece of thought leadership on this is develop your APMP network and find out more from them so you can make the journey from manager to leader. Thank you.